Bon, alors, if you look at the crepe, the flour, I mean, you see the difference between the white flour and the buckwheat. A lot darker. The buckwheat has a little sour taste, so what we're going to do is we're going to mix the regular flour with the buckwheat. That would cut a little bit of the acidity, and as the American palate is very addicted to sugar, it makes it a little more forgiving. So here we're going to do, the recipe is very simple. I'll let you do that. We're going to do about two cups of buckwheat flour, and generous cups, and don't be shy. No, you don't have to.
Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect. The good thing about crepe is very forgiving. Whatever you do, you know, you can adjust at the end. So don't feel bad if you put too much or not enough. You can add a little more milk at the end if it's too heavy.
It's too thick.
Voila, too thick. Yeah, Rebecca corrects my English. That's part of the deal. So then we're going to put one generous cup of the white flour.
And this is a half cup, so we're doing
Yep.
2.
Voila, perfect. And now we're going to do what we call in French une fontaine. So here you call it
A well.
A well, voila. And we're going to ask Corona to put 4 eggs in there. And make a nice hole in the middle. Parfait. Excellent. Voila. So now we're going to start adding one more ingredient, a good pinch of salt. This is kosher salt, so it's a little more generous. And then a good soup spoon of vegetable oil. Why?
Why? To bind it?
To help bind and also so that it doesn't stick in the pan. Voila, so now you're going to be starting to stir from the inside out nicely. Break the eggs. Voila, perfect. And as soon as all the eggs and the beginning of the flour start to bind, you're going to start pouring milk slowly. In the middle, it'll be better. Voila. The idea being to avoid, stop, that's good. The idea being to avoid making lumps. If you stir all together at the end, you end up with lumps. This is better. Voila. And then you can change tools and grab a wisp, right?
Whisk.
Whisk. It's been 20 years, still the same. So you can add a little more milk, you're good. Perfect. Boom. A little more milk, slowly this time, because we don't want it to be too liquid. A little more. Voila.
Perfect.
So let me repeat the recipe. It's very simple. 2 generous cups of buckwheat flour, 1 generous cup of regular flour, the one you have at home, a good pinch of salt, some vegetable oil, about a good soup spoon, and then I would say probably about 2.5 cups of milk. And you will see the consistency. That's it. That's what you want.
That's what you want.
Yep. So that's the first one. So we're going to put that on the side, and we're going to do the other one. So we're going to do 3 generous cups of white flour. I'm going to do another well and put 4 eggs in the middle. Alors, even in a sweet batter, you put salt to add flavor, so a good pinch. You also put a little bit of vegetable oil, and you start to stir slowly, nicely. Parfait. You can start adding the milk. A little more milk again. So you want that to have about the consistency of a potato soup. So now we're going to add another ingredient. So it's a sweet batter, so we're going to add sugar. I would say got 2 good soup spoons. The effect of the sugar is going to be that when you cook the crepe, it's going to caramelize a little bit, gives it a little color.
Oh, okay.
Voila. And another ingredient is the vanilla extract, so a good soup spoon.
Everything is precise measurements
Absolutely.
here.
And the secret ingredient, which is the rum. The recipe calls for a glass for the cook and a glass for the batter. So we're going to do a good soup spoon, and you can adjust that. But you can already smell the aroma. Tiny little more milk, and we're good.
Okay.
tiny, tiny. Now here is a presentation that we're going to offer. It's called a blini, and your blini you're going to see it's like a small crepe, and it's more like an appetizer. So we're going to use the buckwheat flour to make that little crepe, and then that crepe is going to be garnished, and we're going to work on the garnish right now. Bon, alors we're going to start cutting the capers, chopping them thin, and in the meantime, Rebecca, you can do the same thing with the shallots. Yeah, that's good. So this is plain sour cream that we're going to season with a little bit of salt. Not too much because the capers are a little bit salty. A little bit of Italian seasoning. And a secret ingredient that's called, what is it?
Nutmeg.
Bravo.
Nutmeg.
So nutmeg is strong, don't put too much, a little pinch. And you're going to mix all that together. Add a little pepper. Mix again. So those are hard-boiled eggs that we're going to peel. And now you're going to chop those eggs thinly. Voila. So we have 3 of the ingredients, the fourth one being the smoked salmon. And now the next step is to make the crepe. So we're moving to the stove. I am going to pour just a little bit in the middle of the pan. Not too fast, because what's going to happen, it's going to expand a little bit, but that's exactly the size I want. And I'm going to take the spatula to check the coloration. We're going to wait until we start to see around the crepe a little bit of coloration, which means that it's starting to cook through. You can start with that one.
Okay. Thank you.
With that one you're going to spread a little more. Very good. A little more, a little more. So you see, now the batter is cooked. We're just going to flip it. Hop, et voilà. Now, let's say you have your guest coming to your table. You're going to put this dish in the middle, and everybody's going to make its own little crepe. You put a little bit of cream that you spread nicely on your crepe. Then you put a little bit, if you like it, of course, shallots. The thing is, shallots is not too aggressive compared to onion. It can be eaten raw like that. Then you're going to put the egg. And this is your appetizer. Now, I'm going to ask Corona to dice the chicken for me. And we're going to use now the crepe as a container. The interesting thing about this next dish is you can use anything you have in your, basically in your fridge, whatever leftover you have. So here we're going to do a pretty simple preparation. We're going to use chicken and we're going to use ratatouille. Ratatouille being, Rebecca is going to tell you how we make
It's
the
a
ratatouille.
melange of vegetables from Provence. It contains zucchini, yellow squash, eggplant, tomato, herbs of the region, and that's usually basil and a little bit of thyme, oregano.
Put that in here too.
When I make ratatouille, I cook each vegetable separately,
A little bit of
and
Italian
that
seasoning.
keeps the quality of the vegetable
A little more.
really
a little bit
nice.
of salt.
It doesn't get too mushy. And then I mix it together,
You're gonna
add
mix
the tomato,
this with
and
that.
season it with garlic, herbs of Provence if you want, and a little bit of salt and pepper.
So you're going to put this inside.
Be generous.
Not everything because it's going to be too much, but voila. Then you add a little bit of mozzarella in the middle. Perfect. A little more. Be generous. Voila. Then you're going to close it and turn it around. This way, the other way. Voila. There you go. Perfect. Excellent.
Beautiful.
And then you're going to put mozzarella on the top. It's going to add to the flavor. Also, what you don't want is the buckwheat crepe to be exposed to the heat, because then it's going to start to crack. So voila, stick that into the oven. It's ready to serve in 10 minutes.
Wonderful.
Bon, alors now we're going to cook a buckwheat crepe, a big one, and we're going to stuff it with ham, cheese, and egg. You're going to see how easy it is. So I'm going to break an egg right in the middle. There we go. Some cheese on top. Some ham. And then we're going to fold that and let it cook nicely.
Okay.
There. Et voilà. This one is all yours. Here you go.
Merci.
So you leave it on the side to keep the egg cooking slowly. I'll explain what you're doing.
Okay, I just juiced 3 oranges. I'm going to be adding some sugar to this and some of the zest from one of the oranges. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to cook this until the sugar dissolves and it reduces a little bit, and then this is the way I do it. At the very end, I put a little butter to emulsify it.
In the meantime, my ham, cheese, and egg crepe is cooking slowly, so I'm going to be able to put it back on the plate.
We'll also add a little bit of Courvoisier. And what I do is I just I cook this until the butter is melted, and then it's done.
I'm going to fill that little pan, not fill, but I'm going to put some cognac in there. I'm going to heat it up. I'm going to pour that over here. Roll that this way. I'm going to put a little bit of sugar. Et voilà, your crepe is ready.